gentlemen. I want to start by saying how much I enjoyed the first 2 episodes of the show. Thought they were fantastic.
Thank you.
For people that don't, no one watching is going to know your guys' names. So can you each say your names and also what you actually, you did on the show?
My name's Alexander Wu. I am the co-creator of the show, and I was the showrunner on the Terror Infamy.
My name is Max Borenstein, and with Alex, I'm the co-creator of the show and executive producer.
Okay, so I want to go backwards. The first season of The Terror, so well done. I really enjoyed it. Where's the genesis of the second season? Is it when the first season is on, you're pitching ideas? Or is it, like, when did this whole thing germinate?
That started with Max.
Well, I was... before the first season of The Terror came out, I was sitting down with some of the executives at AMC, and they were telling me about it, and they showed me a kind of sneak peek of what it was, and I was a bit familiar with the book and was so impressed by what it was, but they said they were looking for a new iteration of the show that would be another season in an anthology format, so something that wouldn't necessarily draw directly on the story that came before, but maybe create a franchise by building out another story that was based in a moment of real history with a genre component. And that's all they said, but they said they were really bullish on wanting to do it. So do you have any ideas about history? And I'm a huge history buff, so it was a fun little game to think about. And I didn't know if I would have any ideas, but I went home and was looking through my bookshelf, just kind of like at history books, wondering like, gee, I wonder if what would be an interesting moment in time to explore through this genre lens. And one of the books on my shelf was George Takei's autobiography, and I had met him when I had first bought a copy, and he was giving a seminar about his experience in the Japanese American internment camps, and I was. So that was just one book I looked at, and then it was the craziest thing where I woke up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, and it was like, wait, is that an idea? And I grabbed my phone and did the thing you do where you're like, that usually turns out to be like, monkey paw, dragon, and you're like, I don't know what the hell that means. But actually, when I woke up again at a more reasonable hour, it was coherent and felt like a really cool idea, which was, what if we were able to explore that totally underrepresented and tragically kind of brushed under the rug moment in American history, and do it through the lens of a genre show, and so that was the initial impetus, and then Alex took it and ran with it and made it into something magnificent. Really,
I came up with an idea for a board game once in my sleep, in the middle of the night. I woke myself up laughing because it was so ridiculous. It's not worth getting into now, but but that's the best idea I had.
So how long, when was that the germination? How many?
This was shortly before the first season had actually
What
aired.
was the year? Was it 2017, 18?
It was a year and a half ago.
2018, beginning of 2018.
Got it.
Yeah.
So this thing happened really fast.
It sure did.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, because things don't usually. Sometimes things
actually,
happen this fast.
It's funny. I remember very well. Like it was about the very beginning of 2018, and then at the very beginning of 2019, you started. When was it? You started shooting? Almost a year to the day when I had an initial meeting with them. I was on set and they were shooting the pilot. Or the first episode. So it was kind of it sort of. I then went and made a movie that I had written 12 years ago. So it's like there's a wide range.
Yeah, things can happen sometimes super, super fast, and that was the challenge that was set before us. We want to be on the air in the summer of 2019. Well, okay, let's get started right now.
A few ulcers later.
Yeah.
One of the things as I was watching it, I noticed. I think it was in the first episode where I noticed they're on a dock. They're walking, and all of a sudden I saw something in the background. I'm like, did I just see that? And I had to rewind the episode and be like, oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything for people that are watching, but how often are things going on in the background like that you're like, what?
We have a few Easter eggs. It was a nod to the Japanese horror movies that we love, which are sort of descended from the Kaidan ghost stories. So we're starting with Kobayashi's Kaidan, and then the Dark Water, Ring, Grudge type movies, and one of those classic toys in the toolbox is toys in the sandbox, to mix a metaphor, is just sort of plant something there and not focus the camera on it. It's just there, and if you get it, it's really creepy. If you don't, you miss it. You miss it. But if you do see it, it's this really sort of creepy feeling, like you're in on a secret that is really scary that they don't know about, and we have a few of those throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I love when stuff like that's going on in the background. So you have 10 episodes. How, on a show like this, do you end up with a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor, or is it sort of like at the end, I mean, it's literally everything you shot ends up in the thing?
When we started, when we didn't realize, first of all, I mean, we were given a very aggressive schedule because we had to be on the air in the summer of 2019. But we didn't realize the pace that the show naturally had, and this is one of the difficulties of writing a good part of the season before you get into production. That the natural pace of the show is very methodic. And not exactly slow, but it's not one where you zoom. It's not Gilmore Girls, you know. You're not blazing through a whole bunch of dialogue. And so the initial episode 1, which was something on the order of 48 pages, ended up being, I confess, 82 minutes of screen time, which was way too much. And eventually cut it down, and it fits in a like jumbo-sized, little over an hour now.
This explains why the first episode is longer.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer, but it could have been a lot longer. You know, it could have been 82 minutes. So, but we also knew from that point on, we couldn't afford to shoot a whole bunch of stuff that we wouldn't end up using. So the scripts got shorter and shorter and shorter, as you know, as we started delivering episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. They were like 32, 33, 34 page scripts, and we used all of it.
Well, but there's so much suspense and tension, and the direction and cinematography and the production design go such a long way to building this mood in the show, and that's a big part of what's really, I think, kind of exceptional about it, and it's the kind of thing that requires like time. It's suspense rather than surprise, right? There's little punctuations, but really you're at the edge of your seat, and it's the kind of thing that might not take very many pages to write, but you feel it on screen.
When it works, what you're saying, it's fantastic, and it works in these first 2 episodes. But if it doesn't work, it is a boring slog.
Well, you know what it is? It's funny because it's like, I think it's a high wire act and it's risky, and we live in a moment where people have become increasingly afraid of that. Like more and more movies, you know, I come initially from the feature world, and it's like there's a pressure constantly to like have a lot happen real fast. And when you watch the movies we grew up loving, if you watch Star Wars, A New Hope or something, you realize, man, this is a slow movie compared to what's made now. Like it's deliberate, it takes its time. You meet these characters. It takes 30 minutes for something really big to happen after a little pop up front, and it's like, I think, you know. But when you hit that, like the way Jaws does, the way Star Wars, like there's some magnificent stuff you can do, and I think it's exciting that AMC's like, you know, gave Alex the freedom to really tell the story in the right way and not sort of like try to, you know, goose the audience in a fake way, but really build the tension.
But I also think that's one of the reasons why so many people love Star Wars and so many people love Jaws. And one of the failures of some movies today is that listen, like with The Terror, with your show, I cared about the characters because you have character stuff. And when you have those moments of scare, like, you know what I mean? But like those older movies, you give a shit about the people on screen. And the problem today with these movies, with some of the blockbusters I've seen recently, is that, you know, you have 8 minutes of screen time of character development. And so when things start happening to them, you don't care.
Well, yeah,
it's just explosions.
And development becomes, you just have to go to the quick cliches to make it make sense. But this is a show that, like, the characters are so specific and their background's so specific, and I think, you know, there's a real richness in the way that the episodes have been written and performed that I think, to your point, it makes the horror that much more powerful because you're really invested.
And there's two aspects to the medium of television that I think we've taken advantage of here. One is that it takes place over an extended time period, so it's not one emotional experience like a movie would be. It takes place over, in our case, 10 weeks. So you can spend those 7 intervening days between episodes worrying about these characters, and if we've done our job, you care about them. You've lived in their skin, so you're pissed off at them, or you're happy for them, or you're fearing for their safety, whatever it is, but you care and you're invested and you want to know what's going to become of them from week to week to week. The other thing that television does, and Game of Thrones aside, is that it is increasingly a more and more intimate and less spectacle-driven medium, because you're watching it less and less on a television set. It gets closer and closer to your face, and you're watching it. I watch a lot of television on a tablet 6 inches from my face in my bed, with the lights turned out. So you can take advantage of something that kind of worms its way into your brain a little more than you would with something on an enormous screen where it's you and 300 other people, and you're there to get your socks blown off.
But I will say that one thing every time I would watch the dailies for this and see what you guys were able to pull off production-wise, like, it's spectacular looking. Like, it really, like, the thing that's amazing about this show, I think, is that it's, it really transports you to a world and a moment that's been, like, we've seen things about that era, but we've never seen this story, and it really goes on an epic kind of journey that, considering it's a television show, it's kind of amazing.
And we will accept none of the credit for that. We don't deserve any of the credit for that. That is our cinematographers, John Conroy and Barry Dunleavy, and our production designer, Jonathan McKinstry, our costume designers, Tish Monahan, J.R. Hawbaker, made a world come alive that is sort of, in my dreams, it would be like one of those shows where you see just a frame of it, like Mad Men or The Sopranos. You see a frame of it and you know what it is, and I feel like amazingly that happens on The Terror.
No, I thunk whatever the hell I just said. No, I thought your production design and all the technical stuff behind the scenes, it just looks like you've been transported. And again, that adds to why you give a shit. Do you know what I mean? It all looks believable. I had a million other things, but I'm already being given the hook. So I'm just going to stop there and say I can't wait to finish the show. And so far, it's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.